Reaction in Washington to this. Let's go to the White House now, where CNN politics producer Dan Merica is standing by for us. Dan, just explain for us what the White House policy is at the moment. We've heard already from Rex Tillerson, the Secretary of State, who says that the Syrian people would decide Assad's fate. We heard there from John McCain saying that that's another disgraceful chapter in U.S. history. Sean Spicer then blaming it on Obama. Where does the White House stand right now on its policy for Syria?
I think the most telling comments came from UN Ambassador Nikki Haley, who said recently that, the United States is not going to sit around and wait for Assad to get out of office or to force Assad out of office. Now, that is a somewhat of a change, and it was somewhat represented by Sean Spicer at the press briefing today, where he condemned the attacks, said that they were perpetrated by forces aligned with Bashar al-Assad, and then blamed the Obama administration, as you mentioned, for the attack and creating the situation that led to the attack. That wasn't exactly welcomed by a lot of national security experts in Washington, D.C. And Sean Spicer, was somewhat just reiterating what the Trump administration has said in the past. Donald Trump, throughout the campaign, said he was open to working with Russia in Syria. He talked about safe zones, protecting areas in Syria with Russian cooperation. So the attack, the tragic videos that are being shown across the world now certainly are getting a rise out of the Trump administration, but it's not exactly like they've changed their policy based off of what we saw in Syria.
So much has been made about Barack Obama's red lines being crossed back in 2013 with the last major chemical attack that we saw in Syria as well. Does Donald Trump have any red lines, or does he just refuse to draw them?
Sean Spicer was actually asked this today and said that the president wasn't going to telegraph what he was going to do, something they criticized Barack Obama for. But you heard from John McCain there. They were fine with Obama setting a red line if he was going to follow it. They want to see not only what will President Trump say, but what he will do in Syria now that we have a chemical attack, and what his response will be. It's worth mentioning that on the day that Sean Spicer is saying all of this, President Trump later this afternoon will meet with a congressman who actually said that Bashar al-Assad is not the enemy of the United States. So while Sean Spicer is saying this, Trump is actually surrounding himself with people who think it is important to work with Assad to fix the civil war in Syria.
Dan, just stand by for a second, because I think we've just had a statement from Donald Trump on the attack so far, as we've just been hearing from Sean Spicer and the like. Let me just read this statement. It is indeed from Donald Trump. Today's chemical attack in Syria against innocent people, including women and children, is reprehensible and cannot be ignored by the civilized world. He goes on to say these heinous actions by the Bashar al-Assad regime are a consequence of the past administration's weakness and irresolution. President Obama said in 2012 that he would establish a red line against the use of chemical weapons, and then did nothing. The United States stands with our allies across the globe to condemn this intolerable attack. Dan, your thoughts on that statement from Donald Trump, echoing really what we heard from Sean Spicer, saying that it's an indefensible attack, but also saying that Barack Obama is much to blame.
Yeah, I think it echoes what Sean Spicer said today, and I think the questions going forward are, so what are you going to do about it? Are you going to align yourself with Republicans who have said we need to work with Assad, we need to work with Russia, and echoing what Trump said on the campaign? But it is significant that President Trump is putting this out in his name. It's not coming from his press secretary. But I think a number of people want to see what's next, what the U.S. response is going to be, more than just words, but actions.
Dan Merica, live for us at the White House. Thank you. Now, so far, the Russian